into healingourearth.com, have a look at the Facebook page or the Twitter. You'll see who the speakers have been today and the sessions coming up. So there are some sessions on well-being, on music, on harmony. And if you go back to YouTube, the sessions are also being recorded. So there was a session on kids as well just a few weeks ago. So a warm welcome. And really, Healing Our Earth is a community channel. What is the whole point? There's no any other motive here except let us together heal the planet together with various speakers. So with that in mind, let us literally have this aeronautic and aviation theme with welcoming Captain Swati Raval. So hopefully you can see her on your screen in a moment. And I can see you're actually wearing your captain's hat as well. So I think you must have been prompted to wear that. So namaste and a warm welcome. So in the moment, I'm just going to introduce you as well. And I think for those of you who are watching, I think this is an exciting part. We've had lots of doctors. I know my sons would say, what do you want to become when you grow up? No one says, well, maybe some will say I want to be a doctor. They all say they want to become a pilot. So I'm sure you'll be an inspiration to many young people who are watching, and even especially young girls and even other females who are watching to know that you've reached a real pinnacle in your career. And we're very proud and honored to have you here. But time's flying, and I think the audience, the public will want to hear you speak rather than me. So with that, let's introduce Captain Swati Raval, who is actually a commander for Air India and one of the first pilots actually to fly to Italy during a rescue mission. As you know, one of the biggest breakouts was in Italy, in Rome, back in March. And Captain Swati Raval flew, I think, over 300 Indians back to India on a rescue mission, and being one of the first, I think, female Indian pilots to do so. She comes from Bhavnagar in Gujarat, so a fellow Gujarati, and I hope you're keeping well. Now being based in Delhi, she's got 2 children, and despite all this, you're still working for Air India as a commander. With that, you're also doing a lot of, as I said, some voluntary work as well. You're distributing food and to the needy as well, and even thinking of setting up your NGO. So really proud to have you here. A warm welcome. Do share some thoughts, and I'm sure I can interact and talk with you as well. Namaste and welcome to Captain Swati Raval.
Thank you, Nilesha. Namaste world. I'm really glad to be here on Healing Our Earth community channel. I really hope that whatever my tips are here and my experience can help you out. So I'll start with what experience I had when I went on the flight first for the rescue flight, where then at that time we were just learning about COVID, and as Dr. Shah said, it was at that time center of the pandemic, Italy was. So I'll tell you how it went. You can just be with me and fly with me through that journey and experience what I went through. So around 21st of March afternoon, I got a call from my office, which said that I'm supposed to go on such wonderful flight. And when I got to know that, the first thought came to my mind is, okay, that means when I'll come back, I will have to stay away from my kids for 14 days. And my daughter is 18 months, which is going to be hard. But at that time, when I thought of there are people who are stranded there and they are wanting to reach to their family, I decided to go on that. So when we reached the airport, at that time, the things were still new. We were also new, following new guidelines, and not aware of exactly how it is gonna go, because we were kind of in a middle of starting of pandemic where everyone was scared. So when we went to the airport, our medical checkup was done. The airport was looking gloomy because nothing was available. People were not flying. It was kind of almost shut, you can feel. So we went to the dispatch, finished our preparation, went to the aircraft, took off. That was kind of a very different feeling because we were only our crew available on that flight. And we were hoping to reach there as soon as possible so that we can bring them back. Once we reached there, I really remember that very well because Generally, when we are flying, it is not that good situation when you're actually struggling to get into touch with the ATC because they are constantly talking. And at this time, it was all for us. Space was empty. The airport was empty. Aircrafts were lying around. So we took off, went there, landed. After parking, so the flight was led from here by Captain Raja Chauhan and other crew. After parking, when he handed over the flight, we were waiting for the passengers to board. And of course, we are supposed to disinfect the aircraft at that time. So we did that. We were supposed to follow the guidelines where we are going to keep minimum contact with the passengers. The crew kept all the food packets and juices and water bottle on the seats, and then the boarding started. So when the boarding started, of course, we were not allowed to go and meet them. At the same time, when I saw them walking inside the aircraft, yes, that was a wonderful feeling because I could see them having the relaxed face from the jetty. And one of the passenger actually wrote on a boarding pass and sent across, which said that I never thought flight back to home will be so means so much to me. I'm in happy tears. And that really made me feel that, yes, it was a good risk we took to take that flight and bring back those passengers. Of course, after taking off, we did our announcements where they were told to maintain the basic distances, keep seated unless it is really required. Of course, they could wear the mask. That is okay as the aircraft is very well pressurized and there is nothing to worry about. We had about 265 passengers. They all cooperated very, very well. And once we reached the airport at Delhi, I heard they were cheering. Some of them were crying and tears. And they were very glad to come back. And once we landed, we were taken at the separate area where generally, in case of bomb threat or some threat, the aircraft is taken, which is away from all the buildings. And I still remember that when we got down, we had the whole health uh, helpers available, our ground staffs were available, our customs staff were available, immigration staffs were available, or everything was made available at that particular place. When we got down, they disinfected our bags. We did our medical checkup, immigration, customs, everything there. And then we came to home. It was a long journey, but it made really sense that this time it was really required. Of course, the risk factor was involved as we all were new to COVID. We are still new to COVID because WHO is still giving different guidelines daily. But at the same time, the joy of bringing them back and a feeling of helping a little bit what we could do for the community made us really proud. And now I think I should go ahead with, since the skies are open up and people wants to fly, it's a good idea to have a couple of tips with you which really um, help you to keep yourself safe, because all we are talking about is keep the contamination minimum so that the COVID virus does not affect you, right? So I will break down it in stages wise, which will help you out in a manner that you can plan the flight accordingly. Now, different airports, different countries has different regulations. So I would really
Captain
suggest,
Swati, just to come back to you, that
yeah,
was I just thought it was so interesting. I wanted to just ask a bit about the actual flight back, and then I think I'm sure plenty of people watching are going to be asking about tips for travel, etc. But
sure.
you spoke so nicely about this trip back in March, bringing back these 263 people. The gratitude. He said that they never thought a flight back to Delhi would be so emotional, and so on. and the seva that you did. I mean, have you flown since then? Have you flown a plane since?
Yes, I have been flying after that. It's been a couple of flights. Most of the flights are cargo, and because when we go for a passenger flight, our regulation says currently is that we will have to go through the COVID test. So before the flight, about 2 3 days before, we do the COVID test. Once that result comes and it is negative, then we are supposed to take the flight. You go to a different station wherever you are planned. Then you come back, you do the COVID test again. And again, after 5 days, you do the COVID test. And once that comes negative, you fly again. So yes, it is, you take about, one flight takes about 15 days for individual person to complete, because when we go out, it also, we stay there about 48 hours and come back. So yes, I have been operating a couple of flights after that.
So,
that is under Vande Bharat mission.
Yeah, so it is taking a bit longer. As you say, the turnaround time, you have to have repeat COVID testing. It's a bit like, there was actually a professor of ENT on here before, and like us as doctors, we are working flat out, but actually the amount of patients we can deal with because of the turnaround time. So I think it's similar for you as well. And you mentioned, look, after this flight, whether you had to actually go into quarantine so you couldn't see your children. Did that actually happen, or what happened?
Yes. So actually, I thought I'll skip that part because that is the family issue. But yes, when I came home, so first thing what had happened was when I saw my kid. And generally, when you come home after 5 days, my son is 5 years and my daughter is 18 months. So my son wanted to hug me. I could not tell him. I just told him that, no, beta, mama has just come back from flight, so you can't hug mama. Mama has COVID. That is all I could tell him, because it is very difficult for him to understand why. But yes, he does understand COVID because he has been at home last 3 months and not going to school. And after that, of course, we had planned one special room where I will be going in and just close the door. Everything was done by me inside. And it was like a jail cell, you can say, where the food is given under the door. And yes, it was, I think that was the tough time for me, which started after 2 days. Till 2 days, my daughter didn't even know that I was there in the house. And when she saw me, it was really difficult for me to shut the door on her face. And when she started walking towards me, and at that time she had just learned walking, I could just shout out to my husband and told him that please take her away. And of course she cried, and that happened a couple of times. And I think after that she got to understand that mom is here, but she can't meet her. It took a little while. It was a really tough time for me, and I'm sure every crew who is operating the flight, and when they go back and be quarantined, it is difficult for them too, because 14 days is at that time it was 14 days a long time, and if the kids are small, it even makes more difference. But luckily, I have very good help at home. My husband is very, very supportive, so he really took care of them well, and yes, it was okay.
Thanks so much, and thank you for your service in this, because of the sacrifice you would have had to make. I hope the food was good. So with that, and you said a supportive spouse, it is important things, and you've got 2 young children. So you said, yes, it's a personal family issue, but you see how all these things intertwine. And I think seeing the human side of people and so on is really important. Sometimes when we see people coming up, you see a pilot, and even us as medics, we see a pilot very high up, but we see your human side as well. So with that, let's carry on our discussion for those at home wanting to fly as well. There have been some questions coming in, so I will preempt you that there are going to be some questions about what inspired you to become a pilot, and also some inspiration for females and young ladies, whoever. So keep that in mind. That's going to be a question coming up.
Sure, definitely.
But with in mind, look, any community, whether it be Asian community, loves to travel. I think, visiting relatives overseas, and that being completely stopped, travel stopped. How do you see, what are your tips now of people ever getting onto a plane? I speak to patients who say, you know what, doctor, I'm never ever going to get onto a plane again in my life. And how do you work on that? Or people who really want to go, but not want to know tips of traveling safely?
So I would start with, since we are talking about COVID currently, I will say the safety to take care of when, or precautions to take care of when you're traveling. The first and most important part is that if not required, please do not travel. It is right now, I think if we can keep a little bit of self discipline where travel only when required will keep really all of us safe. And if you wish to travel, then to start with, you need to understand that in case if you are infected, it is going to infect rest of the people whom you are traveling with. So you make sure that you are in a absolutely well health. And of course, after that, if you still want to travel, find out the area of regulations where you are going, from where you are going, so that you know what are the challenges you are going to face once you are started traveling. I will say that whenever you plan to travel, you go to a minimum contamination. The idea is to not to get infected from the virus. At the same time, be safe and do your job safely. So if you're traveling, like you all can see this, it was one of the ritual that I was supposed to get bald, and I chose to do it in this time because I feel that the hair, open hair, is the highest level of contamination you feel. So keep your hair tight. Wear clothes which are comfortable at the same time, which is minimum contact, which has, like, do not wear dupattas or saris or loose clothes while shawls and all, which can cause more contamination. If possible, you can travel with minimum luggage. That is highly advisable, because anywhere you are traveling, if you are checking in, checking out, everything is going to be its own consequences, right? So you can start with that. Be aware that if you are going to stay in the hotel, find out if the food is available or not, because most of the hotels are not providing food, or they may be providing food the way I was getting food in my quarantine time, that door to door. You won't be able to go out to get food. Though there will be food outside, I'm not sure how safe that will be. And at airports also, most of the food joints are closed. Depending on the stations, you may try, but I think that will be a good backup. You can carry some ready to eat or something which can give you energy high. Keep your medicines with you. I'm sure a lot of expertise have mentioned about the medicines. I was suggested that at least having some vitamin C tablets and zincolate tablets, which will really keep your immune system high. The food you are taking should be developing your immune system and keep you healthy. Of course, as the Dr. Batra said, avoid junk food, which has more contamination and which can cause more contamination to your body. So once your immune system is high and you are keeping yourself to minimum contamination, I think the chances of getting infected will reduce to a lot. So once that is done, it's a good idea to check in at home, which will help minimum contact with a lot of people. And once you, the very good idea is keep washing your hands. And when I go, I keep one sanitizer hanging outside my bag, because anytime you put your hand inside the bag and suppose you have touched something, some surface which has a contamination, it is going to be having consequences. So I do carry sanitizer with me all the time, and as and when possible, wash your hands. So this is what my home preparation is. Once you reach airport, depending on the different stations, there are different gates only where you can enter. Figure it out. If you get down at a different place, then it may be difficult for you to take your all the luggages and go to that gate. There will be a medical examination for you. They may be asking you to fill up a form, your temperature check. And I'll tell you that the form requires where all places you have traveled. Please give the correct information and don't give wrong information, like it is saying that did you have fever and you say no, which is going to be affecting in a different manner. I think it is very important that at this time, being self discipline is a very, very, very important part. So please give correct information and addresses. When in case there is on your flight, the information is required that in case on your flight or somewhere else, if it is you are affected somewhere, they will get back to you. That is why the information is required. So you fill up that, maintain any surfaces, I think, prevent to touch as much as possible. When you check in also, maintain at least 6 feet of distance. I would suggest that if the other passengers, there may be possibilities that they are not maintaining, you can always very politely tell them that please maintain the distance. Don't take the things granted that nothing will happen to me. When that attitude peeps in, I think that is the maximum chances of a contamination. After that, I would suggest that the next part where after check-in, when you go to security, prevent using the trays if you don't need. I generally do is when we remove the belts, caps, whatever, we keep it inside the bag instead of tray, which will stop the contamination. After that, once you cross, stop loitering around in the airport area, go directly to the boarding gates. And while you are waiting at the boarding gates also, make sure that you are not using different chairs. Be at one place where the chances. So again, I will insist on to reduce the contamination. Once you board the flight, so now most of the airports does have a regulation where you have to put on the mask. I believe a couple of US airports has even fine on that. Other airports, they may just come and tell you they put on the mask. So keep that in mind. I would suggest that the mask, once you get out of the house, you will be wearing for a long time. So carry a mask which is comfortable to wear. The tighten it just enough so that you don't have loosen area of entry. At the same time, it is not uncomfortable for you because you are going to wear it for a long time. And once you enter the aircraft, they will be giving you face shields. If you wish, you can wear it. I think face shield is a better idea where you can remove the mask and it will kind of prevent you before, if in case you are talking to someone, getting the contamination. The best idea is anything while you are doing this, try and avoid touching your face, which can cause the infection. Once you board the aircraft, I think after that, once you sat at the seat, if you feel that the surface may be contaminated, so I'll tell you the aircrafts are fumigated, and it is very well disinfected. So you don't have to worry about. After each and every flight, at least we do fumigation for 4 hours. That is used by bromide, and which is very high level of disinfectant, which can kill anything, including severe insects and all. So I'm sure the aircrafts are disinfected with that. So you don't have to worry about after boarding the aircraft. And our aircraft does have sanitizers and all. So when you are using the washrooms, those are available. While seated, you may remove the mask, but it is okay to keep it on also for your own comfort. Uh, Make sure that when you are wearing the mask, in case, God forbid, that should not happen, in case depressurization happens and if you need to put on the oxygen mask, make sure that you are removing your mask. It is very, very, very vital and very important to remove the mask and then put on the oxygen. God forbid if that is needed. And I'll suggest one more thing while you are on board. Try and keep minimum stepping off the seat. Keep your seat as much as possible. The food and juices will be kept on your seat. There will be no contact with the cabin crew as such, but you can always ask for help. Anytime you're feeling ill, please inform them so that they can do needful. And I feel what I have understood of COVID is if it is treated in time, it is 100% curable. That is what I have understood. I'm sure our expertise will have much more to say about it. But that is what my understanding is, that if it is treated on time, it is curable. So if you are ill, please inform the crew. That will, again, it is for your safety and the safety of the passengers around. try and maintain the basic distance required. Use the lavatories only if required. Don't harm or get injured yourself, because that may cause of diversion, and that is the last thing we want to do in this situation. And I believe being safe, polite will be only way to go about it. At the same time, don't be paranoid about it. It is okay. It is okay to travel. It is not that difficult to do. Have a lot of patience, because once you start your journey, depending on the regulations at different stations, you will be spending couple of hours at both the airports and maybe quarantine after reaching the destination. In India, that is, I think, about 14 days to 7 days, depending on from which side you are coming. It could be your home quarantine. It could be a local facility quarantine. So you be prepared with all those things. And of course, all the procedures is going to take a while, because they have kept 6 feet distance for everyone, which is going to take a long time. So have lots of patience, and do not get irritated. If you're traveling with kids, keep a little backup with you for food, for taking care of them, which will be really helpful. Make sure that you keep checking on them, that they are able to breathe. It is not an issue for them, because most of the time when you feel it, it is fine. The kids, when you put on the mask and they are scared of having COVID around, they won't be able to figure it out. They won't be able to tell you. Keep them hydrated, will really be helpful for yourself and them. And I think once you reach the station, again, anyone who needs help, please help them out. Let's keep the humanity alive in all this situation, because that is the most important part right now. And any questions you have, shoot, please. Thank you so much, Milind.
Thank
And
you.
over to you, please.
Thank you so much for so many tips you've given us there. And actually, we're almost out of time, but we will answer that question as well of your advice and inspiration for young people who want to start off in aviation. But let's just reflect just for a minute. I know we've got Dr. Pankania and Lord Gadia ready as well. And I think they'll be interested in this conversation as well, because it sort of links on as well. That I think what you're saying is that, look, travel when only necessary. I think you're obviously in India at the moment. We can, and Dr. Pankania may tell us a bit more, but I know cases are obviously spiking, rising. We've had some very high profile cases of COVID in India recently. And what we're seeing in England, where I'm at the moment, is actually almost a slight easing at times and almost an encouragement to now go out and do something. So you've got sometimes people a bit confused, especially here in UK, who are saying, well, shall I get onto a plane? Shall I travel? What I'm picking up from you is that, look, if you do want to travel, do travel with a lot of patience, be organized. It may take a lot longer than before. And you've given some very good tips there as well, particularly about traveling with kids, because as I know, I think pre-kids, I think travel was quite good fun. I think with kids, you have to be that much more organized. I usually have a rucksack full of tepla, and all the tepla get eaten, usually by me rather than my kids. But I think all those things are needed, as you say, just to be organized. So with that in mind, we have actually one of our hosts in Healing Our Earth, actually, Shivali, is also in the aviation industry, and she's also, very passionate about this, and saying, look, if there are people who want to get involved in aviation, whether to become a pilot or various other professions, what advice would you give, just sort of on that theme?
So I will feel that aviation is a very good industry. It's very well grooming. I'm not sure after COVID though, but I think it's another 2 years, maybe it will be again on wonderful place. You should definitely join it, but only join the area, the sector which you are passionate about. And that, because I will tell you one thing, that flying is fun, flying is glamour, but it is also with a huge responsibility. So you cannot just take it lightly. And if you are joining it for money, there are a lot of sectors which will give you much, much, much more money than aviation. But so if you have passion and if you can do justice to it, yes, flying is a good job for you.
Thank you so much. And as you say, it's also a form of seva. The seva, the service you're able to do to bring people back and also connect people And as you say, in the next couple of years, I'm sure things will pick up again. And yeah, I was going to ask you about the hairstyle, but I kept quiet. I was waiting for you to say something. And I think that the haircut does suit you. I think you still look
Thank you so much.
a very excellent pilot. So with that, on behalf of everyone for Healing Our Earth, I've actually got one final point because I know we've got to go, but actually, how do you prepare yourself for a flight? I think it's important. We've had surgeons here, all of us in the medical field. Each day we prepare ourselves to see patients or a clinic. Before you start your flight, just your personal, any particular things you do each time, or what do you do to prepare yourself for a flight?
So for me, what I do is like currently the aircraft I am on, it's a long sector flight. So we directly fly to US and back. And since it's a long flight, other than the packing stuff, I mentally prepare myself, plan at home that I'll be out for 5 days. So how the things are going to taken care of. And of course, the sleep cycle I change a little, and it's more about mental preparation where you are telling yourself that now you're going. And I think even doctors do that, everyone does that. And for us, we are also required to fly in stress most of the time. So you are prepared, like when I go, the moment you get into the transport, you start thinking about the flying path, and you leave the home behind. And the moment you reach dispatch or office, where airport where you're now taking off, you are already there and your house is long back behind, because then the decision making and everything comes with the fresh mind, and you are we be with them, not at home. So I think it is something like going on a journey to God, where you go, once you go, I have been to Kailash Mansarovar. So when we started going towards it, we started going to the God, and the home was left behind. And I still remember that when we were there, we were not missing anything. Once we started returning back the home again, the queries, the tension of home comes back. So I think I have taken that with me. And when I go on flight, that is how I prepare myself. That you start with, be with the aircraft, be there, be present, and the rest will fall in place automatically.
Fantastic. And namaste to you. I think that's a great way to end. Flying as a spiritual experience. I think a flight to Moksha sounds very good. I think I'd love to go with you to Kailash Mansarovar on a flight. But on behalf of everyone, Captain Swati Raval, thanks so much. An inspiration, really. A commander for Air India, a female pilot, and those of you watching around the world have really enjoyed being with you. So do keep in touch to stay on as you wish.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Healing of Our Community channel. And it was really a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Keep well, and do look after your children. You've got two young children as well. So excellent. So those of you who are still watching, what an exciting session that was. So that was a move away. We've had lots of medics and doctors, and we had something really exciting there about a flight. And also saying that, look, if you do need to travel, do make sure it's essential travel. But if you are, do follow various points of hygiene, etc., because the virus is still on large.